Let's talk about gerrymandering for a second, shall we? Because we have the situation of the Democrats pointing at the Republicans, and they're saying, oh, well, the Republicans are being horrible because they're gerrymandering between cycles and blah, blah, blah. And then Republicans are like, well, the Democrats also do it, and there's no Republican representation up in the Northeast beyond New York, so we need to do what we need to do. And, of course, it's unprecedented doing it mid-cycle, but here's the thing, that the Republicans since 2010, since Project Red Map, have been, making gerrymandering an art form. Like they're making the Democrat gerrymandering look like they're a bunch of novices, and in doing so, they're basically choosing their voters much more correctly. And they're doing things that they don't even talk about. They won't even tell you that they're doing, because the Republican Party in Texas specifically has absolutely used non-citizen residents in the census to make themselves districts that are not majority Republican, but are plurality Republican, and doing so by using non-voters. So don't let them fool you that they don't want people counted, because they absolutely do want people who are non-citizens counted, so they can even more manipulate the system to their benefits. But what is a congressional district? Why did we have congressional districts? Well, back in the late 1700s, early 1800s, it would be very difficult to cross a congressional district. You have big swath of area that you would have to cross with like horse and buggy, and in order to be able to get out there and talk to your constituents, at the time white property owners, you would have to make a lot of effort to get across those districts. You didn't have cars, you didn't have airplanes, you didn't have the ability to rapidly cross areas in your state like that. So you needed congressional districts back then. We don't need congressional districts now. The House of Representatives is supposed to be the house of the people. It's supposed to be the people's house. It's supposed to represent the will of the people. So the politicians choosing their voters goes against what the purpose of the House of Representatives is. So my idea, and nobody's talking about this that I'm aware of, eliminate congressional districts altogether. There's no need for them. If you're a Republican in California, there's like 38% of that state is Republican. They only have 10 congressional seats, right? That's not fair, because they should have more in California. But California's not going to give them more because the Republicans are doing the same thing in Texas. If your party represents 40% of the state, you should have 40% of the congressional districts. Louisiana is 1/3 Democrat, 1/3 African American. One could argue that perhaps another 1/6 of the state is also a conservative blue dog type Democrat, and that's how we got Governor John Bell Edwards for 8 years. But anyway, we shouldn't have just one district like the Republicans want us to have. The Democrats should have 2, maybe 1/3. And then at least half, if not 4, of the Louisiana congressional districts should probably go to Republicans. Go all across the country, you could find all these disparities that take place. There's a solution to this. Again, get rid of congressional districts. Elect slates of candidates. Let's say the Democratic Party wants to put up a slate of candidates. Let's say they put up 6 candidates in Louisiana. And if the Democratic Party is able to get 2/3 or 1/3 of the votes, then the top 2 vote getters of that slate go to Congress. Let's say the Republicans, have a strong, 50% of the state, and maybe there's another, maybe centrist type of slate that runs, and maybe that they get 1. Maybe that's a conservative person. Maybe it represents a more, blue dog Democrat or a more centrist Republican or whatever. But they should have at least 3. Well, you don't need the districts. You don't need to carve out districts every 10 years or less now to be able to figure out who should represent the people. Put up slates of candidates. Let the people choose what they want. Now, let's say there is a slate that decides, hey, we do believe that representation of a particular area is important. Let's say in Louisiana you have New Orleans Democrats. And want to say, we're going to throw up a slate of candidates that's going to represent New Orleans Democrats. And we say that when we're going to go to Congress, we will caucus with the rest of the Democrats, but we believe that there are New Orleans-specific issues that we should also be representing. So put up a New Orleans slate of candidates. And if that New Orleans candidates get 1/6 of the state's votes, then hey. And if you live in Lake Charles, you want to vote for that slate because you agree with those positions more, then you can vote for it. Because that's the will of you as a person. And then let's say the rest of the Democratic slate gets another 1/6 of the vote, then that's two, one representing New Orleans, one representing the Democrats from the rest of the state. Lather, rinse, repeat in all the other districts, and you end up getting a House of Representatives that is more representative of the people that they're supposed to represent, right? But again, nobody's talking about this because this would make too much damn sense. Furthermore, if you really wanted to, have the people be actually represented, you would get rid of this whole 535 BS, and you would base the number of seats in Congress base it off of the least populous state. So Wyoming, take the population of Wyoming, and you say that represents one congressional district. And then you figure out how many other states and how many Wyoming's worth of population each state has, and then round it to the closest Wyoming. You would probably add about 100 seats to the House. But that would give you a more accurate representation in Congress of each state and their value towards, over the overall population and the say that each citizen should have in Congress. And then every 10 years you can adjust that number based off, what's the population? What's the least populous state now? Is it still Wyoming? Good. How many Wyomings is this state? Oh, there's fewer people in this state now and you have to lose one? Fine, lose one. But don't keep it at some artificial 435 number. And then again, in every state, you'll have slates of candidates, and the people get to vote for the slate that matches them the best, or the closest, and you'll have a more accurate representation of the populace in this country in the House of Representatives. And maybe every 2 years you might have some swing slates that run, or maybe this one slate represents, conservative Democrats in, let's say, Louisiana, and let's say 1 year those people manage to get 1/6 of the vote or whatever, and they get that slate. And then maybe 2 years later, the people in Louisiana decide, okay, well, we don't like that slate, so we're going to vote for this other slate, and maybe then you have 4 Republicans and 2 Democrats. But the idea that the people who are elected officials, Republican or Democrat, should get to choose their voters is just against everything that the House of Representatives is supposed to be. House of Representatives is supposed to be a democratically elected house where each representative represents, again, the will of the overall people, not the will of the population. And the same thing should apply at the state level too, because if a state at the state level votes for a majority to have a Democratic governor, and more than 50% of the state votes for that Democratic governor, then more than likely that state is also going to want to have a majority of Democrats representing them in their lower house, and probably the upper house too. Or maybe there'll be slight differences. Maybe there will be some people who say, okay, this governor is what I like. Let's say in Louisiana, you might have more people voting for a Democratic governor like they did with John Bell, or conservative Democrat like John Bell Edwards, but they might have a majority Republican because they're they want more conservatives there. And offset, and that'll be the will of the people, and you would follow the will of the people. And while there should be checks and balances on that, because there should be checks to make sure that the tyranny of the majority doesn't trample over the rights of the minority. That's why you have the judicial branch to step in and say, hey, y'all have overstepped your authority. You need to make sure that these people are also protected. So what do you think? Do you think that we should, as a country, move away from congressional districts and start electing slates of candidates to give the House of Representatives, a more popular feel? Or do you think we should continue on with this foolishness of gerrymandering? Let me know.